Chapter 7, Mishnah 2. The Mishnah teaches several important rules regarding the Tumah of Ohel. All the slanted parts of a tent are like the tent itself. That is, if the tent has both a slanted roof and a flat roof, even the area under the slanted roof is considered an Ohel. Therefore, Tumah can spread from the area under the slanted roof to the rest of the tent. The Mishnah gives an example of this law. In the case of a tent that slants downward until the ground, and the top of it ends in a flat roof that is a finger wide, if there is tumah in the tent, i.e. under the flat part of the roof, the utensils under the slanted part of the roof become tameh. Similarly, if there is tumah under the slanted part of the roof, utensils in the tent, i.e. under the flat roof, become tameh. Since the area under the slanted roof is considered an ohel, tumah can spread from it to the area under the flat roof, and from the area under the flat roof to it. This is true even though the flat part of the roof is less than tefach wide, the minimum size of an ohel. The slanted part of the tent alone is enough to make the entire roof into an ohel. The Mishnah now focuses on the laws of tumah of a tent that has a corpse under it. The law is that just as the items inside the tent become tameh, the tent itself also becomes tameh. Thus, if someone touches the tent, even after the corpse was removed from it, he becomes tameh. The Mishnah discusses whether the person is tameh for 7 days or only for 1 day. If there is tumah inside a tent, someone who touches the inside surface of the tent becomes tameh for 7 days. This is because the utensil that becomes tameh from a corpse is an ave avos tumah like the corpse itself. The inside surface of a tent is considered a utensil that became tameh directly from the corpse, and therefore has the status of an ave avos tumah. Hence, the person who touched that surface is an av, and is tameh for 7 days. But someone who touches the outside surface of the tent is tameh only until evening of that day. This is because we view the inside and outside surfaces of the tent as two separate utensils. Thus, the inside surface became tameh directly from the corpse, while the outside surface became tameh only because it touched the inside surface. The outside surface is therefore only an avatuma, and the person who touched it is a rishon l'tumah. A rishon l'tumah is tameh for only 1 day. The Mishnah now teaches the law of an ohel that has a corpse on top of it. If the tumah was outside the tent, that is, the corpse was lying on top of the tent or was suspended over it, someone who touches the outside surface of the tent is tameh for 7 days, while someone who touches the inside surface of the tent is tameh only until the evening of that day. Since the outside and inside surfaces of a tent are considered separate utensils, as we have just learned, only the outside surface becomes tameh from the corpse, while the inside surface becomes tameh because it touched the outside surface. Therefore, the outside surface becomes an avi avos, and if someone then touches that surface, he becomes an avatuma and is tameh for 7 days. But the inside surface is only an avatuma, so if someone touches that surface, he's a rishon l'tumah and tameh only for 1 day. The Mishnah now discusses a case in which the inside and outside surfaces of a tent have the same law. If half of a kazayis of flesh from a corpse was inside a tent and another half of kazayis of flesh was outside the tent, i.e. it was suspended over the tent, whether one touches the inside surface of the tent or its outside surface, he is tameh only until evening of that day. The reason is that, in this case, both the inside and outside surfaces of the tent have the status of an avatuma, because each surface needs the half of a kazayis on the other side of the tent in order to become tameh. And we have just learned that where a corpse is on one side of a tent, the other side becomes only an avatuma. The Mishnah earlier discussed the law where part of a tent has a slanted roof. The Mishnah now focuses on a case where part of the tent is resting on the ground. If part of a tent is resting flat on the ground, the law is that whether the tumah is under the flat part of the tent or above it, the tumah penetrates upward and downward but does not spread to the sides. If the corpse is under the flat part of the tent, it has the status of tumah ritzutza, since there is less than a tefach of empty space surrounding the corpse. Therefore, the tent itself, part of which is directly above the corpse, becomes tameh, but the items inside the tent remain tahor. If the corpse is above the flat part of the tent, it is the same as any corpse lying in an open space. It spreads tumah to items above it, since those items form an ohel over it, and it spreads tumah to things under it, such as the tent itself, since it is an ohel over those items. However, the tumah does not spread to things not directly above or below the corpse, since they are not in the same ohel as the corpse. The Mishnah deals with another case where part of a tent is lying flat on the ground. If a tent is pitched in the upper story of a two-story house, and part of it is lying flat over an opening between the ground floor and the upper story, and there is a corpse in the ground floor, Rabbi Yossi says the flat part of the tent blocks the tumah from entering the upper story. This is because the flat part of the tent is considered an ohel, since it has the space of the ground floor under it. Therefore, it blocks tumah from spreading to the upper story. But Rabbi Shimon says the tent in the upper story does not block tumah unless it is pitched above the opening in the normal manner of a tent. That is, the tent blocks tumah only if the tent itself, not the flat part, is set up over the opening. But if the flat part of the tent is over the opening, it does not block tumah. This is because a tent is made out of cloth that can become tameh, and the rule is that something that can become tameh cannot block tumah. However, if the tent itself is over the opening, it blocks the tumah from spreading to the upper story, because an actual tent, i.e. a tent that has roof and walls, can block tumah, even though it itself can become tameh.